lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you'd like to join the community debate, then go to nathanoakley.com and check out the Flat Earth Debate forum, which you should definitely all join. If you'd like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live. There's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. No, not on the shape of the Earth, on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. Now we're joined by Righteous Truth, Sleeping Warrior and 10th Man in Google. How you doing?
Hey.
Very good.
Hey, 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 hey.
Hey, can you back off your mic a little bit, please, Anthony, if you don't mind? And we're also joined in Discord by Earth-Shaped Investigator, Chocolate Sane, FE Batman, FE Force, Jazz, Akonda, Mad, Red, and Travis. Very good to have all of you also.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Good morning.
Excellent.
Can I kick it
For
off?
some reason,
quickly?
I couldn't
With
couldn't join in the Google Hangouts today for some reason. It's not letting me.
Okay, that could be a problem. We'll have to work that out in the after show. Perhaps Chocolate. We'll see what's going on there.
Yeah, no problem.
Any signs of Earth curvature?
If I can just say,
No.
Nathan, you've got a real talent for radio and hosting stuff.
Oh, that's so sweet. Do you have any Earth curve evidence?
Not offhand, but as we get through the rest of
But
the
you'll
house
believe it
talking,
anyway.
I'll get to.
Here we go.
You haven't got any offhand, but you'll believe it anyway, right?
I thought it was easy. 8
Riley.
inches per mile square.
What's up, man?
Should we just call it a squared plus b squared equals
Can I-
c squared just to take the piss? So let's just
Can I
conclude
kick
we
it off
haven't
with
got
a
any
question
evidence
here?
for curvature. What's the next question?
You feel free.
Any
to
signs
Question
of
is there any
axial
evidence of a
rotation?
thermosphere?
We'll come to that at the end, I promise. We'll get back onto the thermosphere. I know people are keen on that particular subject, but in the meantime, housekeeping specific.
I'd love.
Any signs of axial rotation of the Earth base variety?
This came up in
Definitely
the
not.
pre-show too. So this was put to as a challenge to Jazz, who asserted that we are being foolish for not automatically begging the questions of orbits. And the challenge laid down by 10th Man was to provide any evidence of Earth-based Coriolis. And if he can do so, he'll accept the presupposition of orbits. But yeah, axial rotation of the Earth-based variety. Any evidence, feel free. Doesn't have to be Coriolis-based.
Nope.
Nope.
We'll keep that one in the bag, 10th Man.
Okay. I got a story to go with that.
Any more housekeeping questions? Somebody other than me?
Any scientific evidence for gravity?
Scientific evidence of what?
There has been a development on the gravity front.
Oh, excellent. Stick
Nathan,
on
would you
screen.
mind presenting
Yeah.
my screen, please?
You are on.
Okay. So if you go to Google and type in these 4 simple words, you'll get the page that I'm reading from. Express, Newton was wrong. The Express, Daily Express, which is a
Seems to
national
be-
newspaper in the UK.
Sorry, it
That's
seems to be
recently
weird.
printed.
It's weird. You're like massive. And can you make it smaller? There we go. That's just about legible. Perfect.
Okay, so the Express is a daily national newspaper in the UK. A few days ago, they printed this document. Newton was wrong. Scientists dismiss Newton's dismiss. Right, that's like supersede. It's not like refine or support. It's replace. And it says scientists dismiss Newton's theory of gravity and warn that Einstein is next. So Newton is basically being dismissed by the Express. If you want to check the context of this, be my guest. Just type in the words Express, Newton was wrong, and you'll find it. Secondly, in support of this document, we have this guy called Anton, no relation, whose video is entitled New Black Hole Study Confirms Einstein's Theories Proving Newton Wrong. Now, this proving Newton wrong bit is the bit that I want to focus on, because if Einstein proves Newton wrong, he does not supersede, he does not support, he does not refine. He proves it wrong. We'll use the word debunk. Now, his rationale for this is based on orbital mechanics and begging the question with big black hole things and all these other useful things, phenomena that we see in the night sky from the lights that we can't prove are planets. But the point is that he's also claiming that Newton's been proved wrong. Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but Fight the Flat Earth tried to get George Musa to contradict himself and basically say that gravity was a force. It's literally everywhere. Newton's gravitation was a force, but it's been replaced by Einstein. Now, let's not forget about the evidence requirement to prove gravity. Ballers can't even give us a reliable, consistent definition for gravity, because when you go to Jose's chat, they all still want it to be a force, and they reject Einstein, which is their current science. And I'm reminding people that your current science is this. So not only can we not have any evidence of gravity, we can't even get a consistent baller definition for gravity because they keep reverting back to Newton. But it's everywhere on the internet. Do a search, you'll find it. Newton was wrong. Einstein's the current science.
It's a gravity feedback loop, like a black hole.
Warrior.
Hey, Arwen.
Sleeping Warrior, we haven't had a consistent feedback of gravity from Einstein, but we can always do one thing, and what happens? And you can do it right
from
now.
your perspective, Jazz, I can understand why you wouldn't think that there's been a consistent feedback loop from Einstein, because you've only just learnt about Einstein, even though he's been the current science since 1915. So for you to assert that you've not had a consistent one is perhaps based on your own ignorance rather
hang
than
hang on. Did you just tell me that I just learnt about Einstein?
Yeah, because you keep thinking gravity is a force, don't you, Jazz?
You just said that.
Hold on a second. Can you both back off your mics just a little bit? I know it's getting heated already, but both back off your mics, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Jazz, you still think gravity is a force, don't you, Jazz?
I just heard about Einstein. You just told me that.
Yeah, you still think gravity is a force, don't you, Jazz?
Are you... hang on. Are you telling 8.7 billion people that they're fucking stupid?
No swearing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And that they
Just for the record, there's 128 people watching, not 8.2 billion. Just FYI.
makes you crazy. That's what makes you... Sorry.
Did you say that also said did they also claim that that Einstein would be next?
Yeah, he did. They have claimed that because Einstein's theory it's not totally accurate.
Would be...
I love it.
When they make up the new math,
video
and
you
they call
just
it, like,
showed.
Let Jazz in. Let Jazz in. Hold on. Sorry, Armin. I'm sorry
The
to land on.
disproof for Newton is disproved. So what has come out of that?
Right, Jazz, hopefully unimpeded. Go ahead. Excellent response. Good job.
Jazz, let me say it again so you can respond. Jazz thinks that gravity's still a force, like all the morons in Jose's chat. They all think it's a force because someone like George Musa's told them that it's not a force, but they can think of it as a force. Well, if they think of it as a force, that still doesn't make it a force. And everywhere on the internet, you can find citations that Newton's been replaced by, debunked by, superseded by Einstein, yet you morons still want to call it a force. So which is it? Did you just learn about Einstein very recently, or did you know about it all along and you've been misleading people, Jazz?
Okay, Nathan, can you give me... Can I speak freely with old. Whoever
Can
was
you
just-
speak freely?
I don't know, can he? Are you intoxicated again tonight, Jazz, or are you just tired?
No, because if you want to go, if you guys want to go balls to the wall for your mate, then you can go for it. But I'd just like to know who I was just talking to because I'm new to the
Jazz, you literally
Discord.
addressed him. It's Sleeping Warrior. You
We
addressed
told
him
you to
already.
read the contract
Okay.
before joining.
Okay. Sleeping Warrior, are you there?
Jazz.
Of course, I'm waiting with bated breath for you to tell us whether or not you've only just
Can you
learned
back
of
off your
Einstein,
mic,
or did you know
Anthony?
all along and misled people?
Back off your mic a little bit, please, Anthony. I beg you.
Sleeping Warrior.
Yes, Jazz.
Sleeping Warrior, can you just address, and I really want you to address what your thought on gravity is for the whole crew, for all your team.
That your ball Earth side of the argument cannot consistently define what gravity is, let alone prove it.
Okay, Sleeping Warrior. When I'm in my airplane, Sleeping Warrior, so you've got all your building materials that explain
those two
your
things.
side.
I've got to stop already. I'm already confused in the first sentence. So you're on your aeroplane, and Anthony's got all his building materials. These two things kind of don't link together in any way, shape, or form. But if you want
Exactly, Nathan. I'm talking about
Yes,
G-force.
exactly. That's just fantastic.
What does that have to do with building materials?
right, so I'm on a cement wagon, and we've got these penguins, right?
No, Nathan.
There you go. That's
you're
the proof of
leaning up
gravity.
against. You're leaning up against a pallet of 9 tons of cement.
Okay,
And I
I'm
said,
with you. I'm
Nathan,
on
let's
track
go
now.
for a fly.
I had
How
flies.
the hell is this relevant?
Jazz, what are you trying to say, Jazz? Seriously, nobody's following you right now.
Because you don't understand. I'm trying to explain to you that density and buoyancy has nothing at all to do with gravity.
So what's gravity?
Well, Nathan, you're in my airplane.
Well,
right now,
he's
you're in the
correct,
back
though.
seat.
Talk to Anthony, man.
Gravity
Talk to
simply
Anthony.
doesn't come in the
Did
picture.
it? Wait, Jazz. Didn't you ask
he's seen
to
the mic
specifically address Sleeping Warrior?
No, because I don't know how you.
But you
I
did.
don't know how the fuck you don't get it. It's quite simple.
I know you're not
Jazz.
triggered. I know
I
you're not.
don't
Just
think
hold on
you
one
know
second.
what
Hold on,
we are
Owen. Hold
supposed to
on.
not
I know
be
you're not
getting.
triggered, but please try not to swear anyway.
I think
Nathan,
Jazz
do we need to
forgot
have
that-
Nathan?
Nathan,
Do we need to have an inebriated Australian
on.
for the purposes of a gravity discussion?
hang on, Nathan.
What?
You're in the back. You're in the back seat of my Eurofighter.
Okay,
Okay.
I'm with you.
Oh my God!
Go for Antarctica.
I've got-
You
I've
can
got-
look it. You can look it up on Google.
What? Being in the backside
gonna-
of a what? A fighter jet?
Yeah,
I'm
Eurofighter.
taking off now. Arwen,
Now we
Hey,
know
look,
what you did on
I'm with you, man. I've
vacation.
got my eyes closed. I'm in the zone. Stop ruining it. Right, we're taking off.
we're going vertical. We're doing a 9G pull.
I'd be dead. I definitely couldn't
We're
survive
going
that.
vertical.
Okay, I'm with you.
No, you're not gonna go vertical 9G.
You're-
That's ridiculous.
I make this example?
Arwen,
Just let him make his
you
example.
don't know, so shut the fuck up.
Ah, God. Look, he was on track, Arwin. Come on, you're ruining it for him.
He's on what track?
I've no idea. We haven't got to the end of the track.
What track was
Look, we should all have our eyes closed. We should
know.
all be in a
Arwen.
fighter jet pulling 9G.
Going
Nathan,
9G
Nathan.
vertical seems like a bad idea.
That's okay. It's only hypothetical. We're not actually doing it, Arwin. We're in no danger here. I promise.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not actually doing it, but you can think that we're doing it.
Exactly. I am. I've got my eyes closed and everything.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna
Come on,
think of it
Jazz,
as
spit
we
it
are.
out for God's sake.
Nathan, we can't deal with these.
Have you forgotten your point?
assholes.
Well, maybe if you'd include everybody in on that flight, they wouldn't feel the
Look,
need
there's
to
only
butt
two.
in.
There's only two seats in this fighter jet. Don't get jealous,
all come?
right? You can pretend you're
yeah.
fantasizing alongside me, but there's really only two seats in this fighter.
Right, it's clear that Jazz has lost his trail of thought. Let's get back on track, Jazz. Can you give a concise definition for what gravity is? Yes or no?
And okay, well, Nathan, right now we're
His name's
we're at-
Anthony.
We're at
I wasn't
we're at
talking to you
1G. We're at 1G and we're passing through 65,000 feet.
Hold on, 1G. So, am I experiencing 1G stationary right now?
You feel like you're just sitting in your seat, and we're passing through 65,000 feet, 69,000 feet now.
No, I don't mean in fantasy. I mean in reality. Before I do anything, how much G am I experiencing?
You'll be experiencing one,
One.
even though we're accelerating. We've got to a max acceleration of Mach 2, climbing to 60,000 feet. So you've got to your max acceleration, so you won't feel any more acceleration.
So no more G. So at that point, 1G. Don't you mean 0G?
When we pull over the top, you'll feel 1G, and then we'll roll level, and then you'll feel negative G.
Yeah.
This
and I'm
proves
saying,
gravity?
just for the starting point, when we're not doing anything, is it according to you 1G?
I'm wondering what his point is.
What he's doing is he's
I think he's wondering that too.
he's moving the
Barely got the
scale up by
example out.
one.
Can't answer that
So
question.
instead of 0G, i.e. the no effects of pulling any loop-de-loops, he's calling 1G. Because they also, the fundies, the zealots that believe they live on a sphere and believe in things like space, outer space, a vacuum, all that crap, they believe that 0G is when you're in equilibrium with your falling speed. In other words, the plane around you's falling and you're falling at the same rate. They call that an equivalent of 0G, which they pretend happens in their fundy region of space. But here in this example, when nothing's happening, apparently that's one of an immense force that you would also feel when pulling a loop-de-loop. Even though it's not, it's
Nathan?
0.
Nathan, may I read something?
Sure.
Okay. All three G's, he's talking about G-force here. He says a pilot could only experience 9G if he's got a G suit on, which will keep the
Go
blood
ahead with
flowing through their
3Gs. Go ahead
bodies.
with 3Gs. Go ahead.
Okay, as I was saying, a pilot could only go 9G because he's got a G suit on, which keeps the blood flowing through their bodies. Person
Down to
is at
8G.
5.
Hold on. You will get a chance to respond, I promise, Jazz.
Nothing pulls more than 5Gs except for fighter jets. So, but they have to have special suits. Then it's talking about most roller coasters pull about 4Gs. Some coasters pull 5 or 6. But once a person is at 5, he or she is likely to black out.
Who cares?
No,
What is
that-
this point proving?
No,
Stop.
that's
Go on,
completely
Jazz.
wrong.
Jazz, what's your point?
It proves that he can
Not you, Arwen. Not
avoid
you.
responding
Not
to
you,
the
Arwen.
yes or no question
Arwen, just
for
Jazz.
half an hour.
Go on, Jazz. What's your point?
The time, it's called G-lock, which means that the amount of time that the blood flows from your head down to your feet in positive G, and is completely wrong because it depends completely on if it's a quick roll 90 degree sustained turn, particularly laterally to the surface of the earth. 9Gs, which a fighter pilot will pull in a turn or more,
Who cares?
10 to
What's the
11
point,
Gs.
Jazz?
Is no point.
Can I ask him a question? If you can hear me.
If you dare, go ahead.
Well, do you know
The
the cause
point is-
of that 9G?
No, wait, Paul,
do you know
wait.
the cause of that?
Wait, Paul, wait. Go ahead,
Oh,
Jazz.
sorry.
Sorry, the point is exactly the same thing, and I could be wrong. A guy got killed in the Death Valley in California a few days ago in a low-level exercise, and he over-exaggerated the turn, pulled too many G's, and blacked out. And I'll put $1 million on that was the
Oh, what?
cause of the accident.
What is?
What's this got to do with gravity?
Come on, Jazz, please get a sentence out coherently.
because-
What is your
Hang on.
point proving?
Because if gravity didn't exist, he would still be alive.
So you think the cause of this was gravity?
What?
What the hell? If gravity didn't
It's
exist,
not
he'd
going
still
to
be
appear on his
alive.
death certificate.
Wow.
Cause of death, gravity.
So if gravity, then death of this guy, right? And without
the
it,
reason
he'd
I
be
was gonna-
still alive. Okay, if you say so.
Is
Well,
he the
the reason I
first baller that's
Wow.
been killed by gravity, Jazz? Come on.
That's the reason I was going to ask him. what was
That's
the-
going to give a major problem for the investigation board because they know full well they can't find gravity anywhere.
Okay, Paul,
Jazz.
go ahead.
Gravity on the loose as a
Hold
murderer.
up, Paul's been on tenterhooks for the last minute or so. Go ahead, Paul.
I know the cause of the 9G. I know the cause.
It wasn't anything to do with the pilot
accelerating.
pulling the rudder on the plane, was it?
Well, wait.
Yeah, no shit, Owen, because he smacked right
just
into
let
the
Paul make his
rocket.
point.
Fucking
Ugh.
ignorant asshole.
Arwin didn't
Hold
even say
on.
anything. Chime down. Just go ahead, Paul. What's your point?
I said, my point is, the cause of the 9G is the plane and its turns and acceleration. What's the cause of this so-called thing that they're describing? I know the cause of one thing, but I don't know the cause of the other. So really, it's about cause and effect, and he's not even addressed that.
I don't think he can even define gravity, Paul. I've asked him twice and he's still not answered me. Can we have a definition of gravity, Jazz? Come on.
I'm going to get one out of him.
No.
The claim is on his phone.
When you're ready, Chief. When you're ready.
Come on, Jazz. What's the definition for gravity? What are you talking about that you're calling gravity? Because I don't know. I don't know what gravity is.
Just
Well,
give
neither
he's Google searching it.
neither does Mooser.
should-
Do you recall?
You honestly,
recall-
you honestly shouldn't have said that because I don't know where to start now.
Yeah,
That's
I know we
great.
know that. That's why I asked you.
All right, hold on.
Start
Don't know where to
by
start. You're the one
defining
making the
gravity,
positive claim,
Jazz.
and we haven't even had a claim. If we're really honest here, there's been no claim really made by you.
Am I starting with a 12-year-old boy that's been behind the silage pit on a farm?
Now you're
that
chewing
has
your mic,
no-
talking about
just a
12-year-old
definition.
boys. Let's shut that line down quickly. Right, let's move on. Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
Oh, why have you let him off the hook? I think that it should be.
Yes.
Why? What do you
I tell you what. Let's make it easy. It's not fair to ask a drunk, inebriated Australian for a definition of gravity at
Are you a
midnight.
Kiwi?
Just tell us, Jazz, with a yes/no answer: is gravity a force?
Are you a Kiwi?
No, he's not gonna
He's
answer
gone.
that.
He's gone.
And he wouldn't answer it anyway.
He's right here. He's in here.
Okay.
He's still in here.
I think he's a Kiwi.
I will tell you in an accent that will make you question.
How
Is it
about
a force?
a yes
Just my
or a
seat.
no?
Oh God, it's
it a
turned into
force,
flat
Jazz?
Earth drunk debate. This is dreadful.
Yes, absolutely.
Take your
I
mic out
believe
your mouth.
gravity is a fire.
Eating your mic.
That,
Take your
that's
mic
a
out your
beautiful
mouth.
accent,
It's not a
Jazz. He said
Scotch.
yes, absolutely. It's a force. He says yes.
Is that what he said?
So,
But
so
I
we can
don't
move
know.
on.
Jazz, gravity is
But
not
I
a force,
don't
mate.
know.
Even if you can think
Who
of it as
can
a
be
force,
sure?
it can't cause anything.
If
think
I
he said
can
it's a
quote
farce.
George Muser, gravity is not a force, but you can think of it as a force. And then he says, workings of gravity, you shouldn't use force concepts. But the effects of gravity, you can use force concepts, notions. It's not real. They believe in not real forces.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, we all absolutely understand that it's not real. It's the bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time. Well, pseudo-Ramonian force space isn't where we live. That's nonsense. Bending of conceptual mediums giving rise to non-forces? Well, they're all nonsense, just for fundies. It's fairy tales and just so stories. But, you can keep them. Fundies.
Can I just respectfully point out that Jazz has failed to even attempt to define gravity, let alone give us an explanation for it?
Well, Nathan got to ride on a jet. That was fun.
I just did. Bending of a conceptual medium known as space-time.
Yeah, but that wasn't Jazz. That was you, Nathan. Are there any ballers out there that can define gravity for us?
I will. While they're figuring that out, I will say this. The more I've interacted with ballers on the Discord channel, they are not truly concerned about causes. They're concerned about predictions, and they're concerned about measurements. They're not concerned about causes. So
that's called the dependent variable in a scientific experiment, right? The prediction and the measurement of. So if you're going to measure, for example, a proton, then that's science according to the rumpus. But he ignores the fact that science has an element to it that's required called experiment. Rumpus only wants the observation bit, and he denies the importance and the application or the necessary application of experiments, to the point where we had a discussion about the meaning of the word and it went on for ages.
Yeah.
And literally, the definition of science by his own citation is the observation and experiment of the physical and natural world. And it was the word and that we were having a problem with, because Rumpus thinks that you can go to the safari park and you can look at, or you can witness zebras and lions and only see zebras. And I'm like, well, if you haven't seen lions, you can't say you saw zebras and lions. He says, yes, you can. I was like, no, you can't. If you only saw zebras, you can only claim that you saw zebras. You cannot claim you saw zebras and lions. But Rumpus thinks that you can. And I'm like, that's not the meaning of the word and, Rumpus. They're mutually inclusive when it's and. They're mutually exclusive when it's or.
Yep. And I kept on repeating constantly that, yes, it's never mentioned separately. He gave his example of how it would be considered separate, but he never gave an actual example of this in writing. It was just his idea, because every time you look this up, it's always and in one sentence, in one concept. It's not separable.
Hey, Arwin, you know the guy you were chatting to yesterday with the really annoying accent, and he was asking you for any examples where science has actually proven something? I was ready for battering him in the car. I was picking up somebody in the car, and I was listening to the show. I couldn't type him in chat, but I heard him asking you for anything that science has proven, because he was reacting to Rumpus saying that science doesn't prove things; it only disproves things. Right. I'm going to give a quick list of 10. So this is this hangout, Arwin, at 30 minutes in is where you can come back to it. 10 quick citations for things that science has actually proven. Number 1, water boils at 212 Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius at sea level. Arwin got that one for them. They took issue with it. Number 2.
Yeah, they did.
They did. So combustion is the result of oxidation reactions. Combustion is the result of oxidation reactions. That's cause and effect. Number 3, information is only caused by intelligent agency. Number 4, lack of insulin with type 1 diabetes patients results in ketoacidosis, DKA. Number 5, lack of vitamin C intake in humans results in scurvy. Number 6, knowledge or the existence of the which path information collapses the wave function. Number 7, the rapid motion of and collisions of molecules with the walls of the container causes gas pressure. That's where gas pressure comes from. And we breathe gas pressure, so there must be a container, and this is proven by science. Number 8.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure about that one? Isn't that a natural law? Not
no,
science?
It's the cause.
There are natural laws as well that apply to gas pressure. But to assert something like Boyle's law as a causal relationship when you've got, it's a volume and pressure law, well, you've got the cause in the law. So it's not required to go through the scientific method. It's the same with all laws. But anyway, sorry, continue, please, Anthony.
Number 8, magnetism is caused by the motion of electric charge. Number 9, the Coriolis force is caused by two differing frames of reference, one rotating coordinate system and one non-rotating coordinate system. And number 10, glucogenesis results in the production of glucose from specific non-carbohydrate precursors. They're all things that science has proven, just 10 of them, right? I was dying to attack him, but I couldn't get back to the computer quick enough, and when I did, he'd finished. But let me just address that one thing that Nathan just said about laws. This thing called gravity, the force that's not really a force. I'm at the point now where my relative density disequilibrium argument with the egg, I'm going to declare on this hangout right now that there is more evidence that supports that that is a law of nature than it is anything that we can science out of, because it happens every time. You get an egg, add a bit of salt, it will happen every single time. I'm going to call that a law of nature. And unless anyone can demonstrate that it's not, I'm going to do something to make it be a thing. Because relative density does seem to be, or disequilibrium does seem to be, a law of nature, because we can't really explain it. It's hard to explain, like the reason why hot goes to cold and pressure goes to non-pressure. Guess what? Density and non-density, or lack of density, they always seem to level themselves out in a particular order. Don't know why, just does it. It's a law of nature, and unless anyone can debunk it, I'm going to claim it is one. I'm done.
Well, you actually make a good case. It's the same way how they presumed the law of gravitation, just without an actual causal foundation, really. And
they don't argue.
With relative density, we do have, so we could just as well declare it a law of nature. The ballers will love this.
Yeah, they don't argue for why why pressure goes to non-pressure. They don't argue over that. It's not contentious. They don't argue why hot always goes to cold. They don't argue about that. It's not contentious. But they do argue why more dense things displace less dense things. That's an issue, because they want that to be called gravity. Well, I can't see any science to prove gravity. I can't see any coherent explanation for what is causing it. But we know that it happens, and we know that when we can predict what will happen based on its density relative to the medium it's in. It's a law of nature, guys. That is literally what it is. That's where I'm at the moment. I don't think you guys can science it any more than we can science it, but it definitely does happen. It is an observed phenomena. Things do sink, things do float, and things get suspended in the middle. That is an observed phenomena. Why it does it?
Right.
Don't really know, but it definitely does it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and also, just so you know, too, I've been saying this for the last few months, but the more I look at it, it's the same thing. They have to change the definition of gravity to deal with the celestial bodies. Everything that we see here can be accounted for through some kind of molecular interaction down here, but they have to change the definition so they can account for what goes on in the heavens. They have to change the definition.
Yeah, what they call the heavens is space, and what Einstein describes in his pseudo-Riemannian force space is space-time. The thing that contracts and expands and is made up. It's a conceptual medium. It's not real. And bending it, giving rise to a non-force, is meaningless. Is that it? Are we rounded out gravity? Can we move on? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
No. But they love to assume it, though. We had the whole conversation about that yesterday as well. And they brought forth the sticks in the ground again. It's like going through all of that all over again.
Sticks and shadows have got sod all to do with the distance to the sun in terms of their presupposition of an R value.
Well,
so
they just are. No, but this is how they actually explained it. They suggested like all this supposed data about the distance of the sun, about what it was and how the earth was a ball, that Aristophanes apparently supposedly knew all this data when it wasn't even officially established yet, when he was doing his experiment. That's how they portrayed the whole situation. When that is obviously ridiculous.
Yeah, they're
how
quite
could he have
overt about
ever
it.
even imagined it to be like that?
Yeah, they're quite overt about it. He assumed R.
Right, and a vast distance and all that it is basically the entire model. That's what they assume. That even in the beginning, with a bunch of goat herders and everything, and a couple of smart guys that know math, that they all had this entire vision, all worked out, the model, everything that the ballers are dealing with now. That's what they just presume.
Yeah, in reality, he presumed Earth was a sphere.
All right. Bypassing that there's just so much information you don't have.
Or
You can, of
bypassing-
course, if you go by ball presupposition, use the triangulation trick to determine, how it all would work. You know, the triangulation trick, when you don't supposedly have to know an exact distance in order to get the coordinates right and everything. But that still bypasses the fact that in the end, if you want a real confirmation, you gotta have that distance from the sun, and it just skip it. Just skip it. Don't need it. You got triangulation. You don't need it
Well,
anymore.
they don't skip it. They weasel in the presupposition of Earth-based sphericity in their measurements when they're using sticks and shadows. So, in other words, their application of an R value, like I say, if you look it up, is fairly overt. And it's so overt that it slips by most average Joes. So, do you remember Gary Awesome? Well, Gary Awesome referenced it. He even highlighted the fact that he presupposed the Earth was a sphere when he made the measurement. But he danced over it like, oh, that's alright. That's okay for him to presume the very thing I'm arguing about here, Earth's sphericity. He's just assuming it.
Yeah.
Yeah, overtly stating it means that most people will dance over it, is my point, Arwin. That's why I've stepped in. Sorry.
Yeah, but it does happen. They really just start to get comfortable, start up a talk, and then in their explanation, they quickly move through these core, like, of course this, of course that. Just slip it in really quickly, move on to the meat. So you kind of get rushed into accepting taking these things for granted without getting the time to actually ponder upon them. And that's the trick they're doing every time.
Yeah.
So Arwen, are you saying because the goat herders were involved, they pulled the wool over our eyes?
Hey, 10th man's piped up because of goat herders.
That's a good one.
He's a farmer, right? I bet you haven't even got goats. Are you playing martyr for no good reason? Have you got goats?
No, I've had goats, I've had lambs. I just thought I'd use this for a good pun. The ballers pulling the wool over our eyes using the goat herders.
Boom, boom.
Any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the center of a presupposed spherical Earth?
This is your moment, Discord.
No.
No, don't jinx it. Come on, there's somebody in here. I know somebody's got some evidence of that molten iron core. Oh no, people are dropping. Not encouraging. Oh, you're on server mute, Travis. Let's just take you off mute. Go ahead.
I was saying cricket.
Oh, damn, you got my hopes up.
Nada.
No evidence of molten iron cores at the centre of presupposed spherical Earths. Moving on.
Nah.
Oh, we've asked about it. What about the R value? Anybody at all got any evidence of the R value?
Nope.
No?
Sorry.
Anybody at all? This is the whole nature of debate. This is the crux of the debate. The nature of the world that we live upon is declared to be a sphere. And it's a presupposition, and nobody's got anything to defend that. Seriously. You just happy zealots going, yeah, we just assume it's all good by us. That's our fundy belief, and we're good with it. Seriously?
That's their story, and they're sticking to
We're
it.
sticking to it.
Amazing.
Nathan, what's your biggest proof against it being a ball? I know everyone asks this, but what's yours? Is it gas pressure or something else?
I like talking about the gas pressure thing. So when the guy came out to do the dents on the car, he was asking me what, like you do small talk, what do you do? And I told him I've got a YouTube channel. What do you discuss? The nature of Earth. Oh, really? And he asked pretty much the same question you did. And I just looked at the sky and went, that's not a vacuum. So I like that as an opener. I think it's a very good argument. I know 10th Man likes Coriolis. I think Coriolis is smeared in so much bullshit that if you ever get into an argument with even a half knowledgeable person on the subject, they can double speak themselves around the topic and you end up talking about it for an hour. Whereas with space being a vacuum, it's really easy to make the example quick. But in terms of, to answer your question, you were like, best evidence against the globe. Well, there isn't any for it. So back to our values. Well, every evidence for a globe starts with the presupposition that you're on a globe. The R value is assumed. There aren't any examples of globe proof that don't start with the presupposition of you being on a sphere. Well, that's not evidence of a globe. That's evidence of fundamentalist religious zealots who assume they're on a globe and then make their examples with the assumption already standing true. It's not true. Well, it's just a presupposition. Sorry. Go ahead.
Let me present my biggest reason, and then I'll ask Arwin for his, because I know he's going to be dying to respond. For me personally, the biggest reason why we're not on a sphere is gravity. Because the minute I found out that, I remember when I first came into the discussion and people said to me things like, which definition of gravity are you on about? And I didn't realize that they were mutually exclusive. I thought they were inclusive and you had some element of choice. And then when I started researching Einstein, and I realized that when Einstein said it's not a force, it's the effect of the curvature of space-time, it dawned on me that if it's not a force and it's an effect, it cannot cause anything. So if it can't cause anything, these guys have got three fundamental problems with their model, and they all deny this problem. One, what's causing tides? The moon is supposed to cause tides with its gravitational pull. Well, if gravity is not a force, it can't cause anything. So if the moon's doing something for tides, it's not doing it with gravity because it's not a force, it's an effect. But then you've also got the sticky oceans and you've also got the sticky atmosphere to contend with, because what holds the oceans on? What holds the atmosphere on from bursting into the vacuum of space? And they say, well, it's not really a vacuum, it's just a low pressure. Well, high pressure always goes to low pressure, always. And you have to have a mechanism to stop it on a ball, and that mechanism is a force. Well, if you haven't got a force, then you're not going to be able to have a density gradient or a pressure gradient because there's nothing stopping it from falling back to Earth. It's all bursting into space, always, and it would do it instantly. And they say pressure gradients. And I'm like, that pressure gradient is subject to something like holding it in. You can't have a pressure gradient without gravity. Gravity is the thing that gives you the pressure gradient. But they ignore that, and they demand that the pressure gradient is the explanation. And I'm like, you can't have a pressure gradient without gravity, you moron. There's nothing stopping that burst from going into space. Balloons don't burst slowly. You need a force, and you haven't got one. So for me, gravity is the one that kills it all. You can't explain tides. You can't explain oceans. You can't explain atmospheres. It's over. Arwin, what do you think? No way.
He's probably going to get a cup of tea.
Hey, can I share?
Just before you do, just one correction, right? Gravity was never holding on the gas pressure. Even if you have gravity, they can have both. They can have Einsteinian and Newtonian, aka Cavendish / Reverend John Mitchell gravity. They can have that at 100% full effect, and it's still not going to hold gas pressure in defiance of entropy. The second law of thermodynamics is not addressed by some fundamentalist force that they don't even have. And even if they do have any force, they can apply it to that and it will not hold it to a spinning ball in a gravity well or any other type of description of gravity. It does not do that.
You're right, but there's something psychological that trips in their mind when Dawn Treader thinks that gravity holds the oceans and the atmosphere on because someone told him it does. Logically and reasonably, it makes sense to him and he accepts it even though it couldn't do it. You are right. But if they've got something that gives them something to believe, but if they haven't even got that, so even if it didn't do it in the first place and it couldn't do it, you haven't got it anyway. So whatever you think's causing the atmosphere to stick to the Earth, and whatever's causing the oceans to stick to the Earth, that's inversely proportionate to its mass and all that nonsense, it's not a force. So it ain't doing anything.
Okay, it's akin to arguing with them because they say that the reason Santa, you're saying the reason Santa couldn't drop the presents under the tree is because he couldn't fit down the chimney. And they're saying, no, Santa has got magical powers and can shrink down the chimney. And you're arguing back and forth about whether or not he can fit down the chimney. When in reality, Santa's not real. Now, in this instance, the force they describe, even if it was real, could not defy entropy.
Yeah, I get that. But when you get down and dirty, Nathan, in the swamp of flat Earth, even though you are right, they still think that if there's a force there, that explains it. Even though they don't get it, that it doesn't. In their mind, it does. So you'll have to reduce yourself to the lowest common denominator.
I do get it, you and I have had this conversation on no less than 20 occasions on air, and there's a reason for that. I just don't want somebody out there to think that that is the main crux of the argument when it is not. Yeah, you cannot overcome entropy. The gas would fill the space even if they had 100% gravity from Cavendish / Reverend John Mitchell and from Einstein in 100% full effect. It still would not defy entropy. It would still fill the space.
And let's just deal with Cavendish. If the reality is that gravity is not a force, where does that put the Cavendish so-called experiment? Because apparently ballers still cling to Cavendish as though it proves something. Well, guess what? If Einstein said it's not, then Cavendish is not proving anything. Sorry, Cavendish has been debunked by Einstein. It's literally that simple. The conversation stops at that point for me.
I agree, but even if they had that presupposition of a force, their claimed experiment being proof with a hypothesis of if mass, then mass attracts mass, and a natural phenomena of balls in shed attracting one another, even if you gave them that and said, okay, you can have that force, it still wouldn't defy entropy.
With that statement, can I share that story I told you about with the Southern California Edison inspector that came to my property?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
So I have these power poles and they have to be inspected. So this guy rings the bell, I let him in, and we start talking, and I could tell he's educated, and he says something that triggers me to start what I'm about to do. I said to myself, okay, I'm going to purposely cause cognitive dissonance in this guy right now. So that's what I said to myself in my mind. And so I said to him, hey, can I ask you a question? He said, sure. I said, you're educated, you know about physics and all that. He says, oh, yeah, I love that subject. I said, great. I said, Coriolis effect. Is there one reference frame for Earth-based Coriolis, or must there be two at least? And he paused. He says, no, there's got to be two reference frames for Coriolis effect, or Earth-based Coriolis effect. And I said, oh, okay. So when the bullet's free flying in the air and the Earth is spinning underneath, would that be a good example of one? He said, of course. I said, all right, what about airplane leaving LAX to Charlotte, North Carolina? It takes 4.5 hours going with the turn of the Earth, but on the return flight, it's going against the turn, and it should take 1.5 hours, but it takes the same 4.5 hours. So what happened to the spin of the Earth? Pause. His eyes went up to the ceiling of his brain, and he just says, I go, what's happening here? Two thoughts at the same time? He was stuck. So he went to, are you ready for this? Well, how do you explain the tides? I go, the tides, what do they got to do with the Earth spinning?
Red herring.
I was going to say, red herring. I was expecting the end of that story to be a ad hoc explanation, but no, just flat out red herring.
Well, it's cognitive dissonance. So they go to their training of the next lie down the road. The moon, the gravity, the pull causes the tide. So all of a sudden, he avoids Coriolis because he just got beat. He's got cognitive dissonance. And then he goes to the tide. So I stay on topic. I said, well, listen, that's another question. And that's a good one. But we're talking about Coriolis and the Earth spinning under free-flying objects. So why does it work under a bullet but not an airplane? Another long pause. And he was so much cognitive dissonance that I had to come in and bail him out. That's how bad it got. Mm-hmm. He goes, okay, now you got me thinking. Now I'm going to have to go check all this out. I said, please do. And under my work order, when the next guy comes, right in there, talk about flat Earth. And he said, I will. It's typical.
I mean, it's not something I've ever discussed with anybody other than Globehead, so maybe my reluctance to use the Coriolis effect is unfounded on account of the fact that it might get lost in 2 hours of obfuscation with a Globehead, but with Johnny Normal, that's a totally different, it's reasonably complicated enough for somebody to have a, what seems like an intelligent conversation about it. You can lead them, as you've done, with how it works with the bullet, and if they think they know, they've watched enough Discovery Channel, they'll go, oh yes, of course, bullet, Earth rotates underneath, excellent. And then you point out that from Charlotte, North Carolina to LA should only take an hour and a half if the Earth spins underneath and LA's coming towards you as you fly, and suddenly you watch them have a little brain fart.
Yes. And he also went somewhere else. He says, but I've seen the curve of the Earth. And I go, where have you seen the curve of the Earth? He says, I just looked out.
At the horizon.
I go, I'm looking out right now. I don't see the Earth spinning, do you? I don't see a curve. I see topography. I go, have you been to the ocean? He goes, yeah. And I go, when I go to the ocean, and I used to have a boat, as far as left, as far as right, as far as straight to the horizon, I could see it was always flat. Can you tell me otherwise? And he totally stopped talking about the curve of the Earth.
Yeah, you got to stop
reifying
that. You've got to stop reifying that horizon, man. That horizon proves nothing either way. So yeah, I see what you're saying. It doesn't curve. Well, what if it did one day? Who cares? It means nothing. The fact that you can see a long distance and there's no obstruction, which is precisely what they argue for in the counter positive, that I would say is a reasonable example of being able to see a long way with nothing, i.e. Earth curve, getting in your way. Like in Ranty's examples, right? But in terms of the way that the horizon doesn't bend, what's the horizon? Well, it's the arbitrary point where you assign a line that's actually the point where the ground meets the sky, but it doesn't. So, yeah, we could go into the complex nature of the diffraction limit, but why bother? It's meaningless in terms of what you're doing. You're saying it doesn't bend. Well, so what? What if it was a giant upside-down smiley face? Would that mean we were concave?
Well, let me finish, because as we're talking, more stuff is coming to my memory. So he says, so I said, well, we already know the R value of the Earth according to it's 25,000 miles in circumference. Do you agree with that? He goes, yeah. And I said, well, that broken down is 8 inches per mile square. So as you're looking out, if you're a mile away from me, you should be 8 inches below me if we're on a curved ball. He goes, yeah, I agree. And I said, well, if you're 2 miles out, then you should be 32. And it goes on and on. I go, how come? And, I went to lighthouses and ships. And again, when you put these little things there, his eyes went back to his head. So these are automatic comebacks that they use. And then he says, yeah, but we're a ball. I go, so a ball has measurements. And your side says the measurement is 8 inches per mile per square. So if we use your own math, it doesn't work. There is no curve that you could talk to me about. There is no spin. Look outside. Are we spinning? He goes, no. And I go, then why do you believe people telling you that we're spinning? He says, you know what? You got me thinking. I'm going to go research this.
And now he's a geocentrist.
It was awesome. Instant cognitive dissonance. Just ask those questions. It's awesome.
No, kudos. Like I say, I tend to maybe shy away a little bit from getting into hour-long arguments about Coriolis effect. I did it with my sister-in-law right at the beginning of Flat Earth and ended up discussing the Foucault pendulum with her, and it just descended into a row real quick because it goes on and on and on. And it's like, no, you need something just that little bit more. Oh, I feel I need something much more snappy, which is definitely the gas pressure without a container argument. But obviously with Anthony, it's gravity, so to each his own.
I ended with the gas pressure without a container. He was already beat up.
And just FYI for the audience's benefit, when I say what I say to Anthony, which is to say, look, their Fundy force of gravity, even if real, wouldn't defy entropy, he knows and I know, we both know what each other knows, and we understand that we're having this conversation mainly for your benefit, you being the audience. Because, yes, I appreciate that Anthony, when in the trenches, as he puts it, is going to be faced with people who just assert that this force can hold gas pressure on. Horse shit. Well, they're not going to listen to that if they've got a fundamentalist religious belief, and that's what he's arguing against. I get it. He's got to get in there and beg the question in order to undo that nonsense. But I'm just still going to stick to the crux of the argument. Go and watch Dr. John Dee and his demonstration. If we have gravity, presupposed or otherwise, it's in full effect at ground level, and you still can't have gas pressure without a container. It's not a possibility. It's a violation of a natural law. It's never going to be demonstrated because it's not demonstratable. And your Fundy belief in a gravity makes sod all difference to how the gas would fill the space. That's how we debunk outer space, a vacuum. It isn't. The gas would fill the space, regardless of your Fundy belief in gravity.
And also, I guess just one caveat for the so-called flat earthers are saying there's this other substance or this other thing that contains something. I know 10th Man probably covered the debacle of the altitude and all that stuff. So temperature is not a container. Just to be clear for those flat earthers out there.
Travis Clark, I put you on mute for no mic discipline. All right? Grow up, for crying out loud. And what causes tides? Invisible green pixies causes tides.
How do you know they're green?
Yeah, that's right. According to Rumpy, the Rumpus, right? I can't wait now for these guys to start parroting this. Invisible green pixies and science is an affirming the consequent formal logical fallacy. That's what they're on right now. I can't wait. Their collective science acumen it looks like Jazzaconda's liver. So please continue with it. I can't wait. Clowns. And Toady Retard in the chat. Why don't you come on in, Mr. Liar Retard? Get your ass handed to you.
Let me have a screen share for a minute, Nathan.
If you could, yeah, back off your mic just a tad though.
Sorry.
You're on.
I've heard Rumpus talking about these invisible green pixies, right? And it dawned on me, shout outs to Toady in chat, because it was him that put me onto this. I hadn't heard of this before. This is new information for me. What Rumpus is applying here is Maxwell's demon. And I'm going to take it that no one knows what this is. But Maxwell's demon is...
I brought it up.
I do too. I know.
Yeah, so basically, the invisible green pixies is this little demon that opens the trapdoor for just the high velocity gas particles to go into the other chamber to allow the other chamber to decrease in entropy rather than increase in entropy. And what he's saying is you could violate the second law of thermodynamics hypothetically with a thought experiment. And that's what Rumpus is doing. The invisible green pixies, he's basically creating this pseudo thought experiment nonsense to try and... But the problem with this is that there have been people that argue that when you take into account the energy use of several physicists have presented calculations that show that the second law of thermodynamics will not actually be violated if, and we'll say, invisible green pixies analysis is made of the whole system, including the invisible green pixies. So when you take into account their energy use to be able to control the experiment that Rumpus claims is being affected or might be being affected, then really, he's just literally applying this to try and argue against the idea that you can't have gas pressure without a container. In my view, that's what I think he's doing. The other thing is, I want to shout out P900 Coolpix. She's done a video recently on her channel. It's really hard to find because there's loads of channels with the name P900 and Coolpix for obvious reasons. But anyway, Flat Earth, Thornton Cleveley's to the Isle of Man. And what she shows at 1 minute 50 onwards is a setting sun. Now, Ranty shows that the mirage, the layer that sits above the horizon, that does block what we see and it distorts it. And whatever goes on at that horizon point, Ranty's demonstrated plenty of times that it does block the real horizon. Whatever's going on, we can't really explain it, but we know it's definitely there. It does affect what we're doing.
Sorry, can you make it full screen, please?
Yeah. So what I want to show here is this little section of the setting sun. I've got it slowed right down because she's got it sped up. But what I want you to look at is how the sun presents itself. And imagine where the mirage actually is relative to the sun, because it's difficult to put where the mirage stops. But we can definitely see that there is some kind of mirage going on with the sun. And I'm wondering, is the mirage the reason why the sun's setting? Look at that. That's got a specific name, that type of mirage. Where is the real sun? Now, is the sun... I don't know what's going on there. I'll just play it again so you can watch it. But if the setting sun is setting behind the mirage and the mirage is acting like a brick wall, it's not actually setting, is it? It's just going further away, and the mirage itself is blocking what we're seeing. And the real name for that type of mirage setting is called the Nova Zembla. You could use it by its proper name, but borders can't even understand gravity, so they're not going to be able to understand a Nova Zembla. So we'll just call it a mirage. But my point is that whatever's going on with sunsets, it ain't going down. It's clearly optical. It's clearly caused by the horizon. And I'm at the point now where I'm wondering, What is the horizon? Is it really an arbitrary point that seems to be where the sky meets the land? Or is it actually a brick wall of mirage or mirroring that's blocking the sun from disappearing the way that they expect it to? But it's just an interesting phenomenon that she recorded, and just shout outs to P900 Coolpix.
And with that, I'll say if you want to see the continuation of this conversation, you'll have to click the link below and subscribe to the Nathan Oakley channel. A massive, huge, enormous thank you to all of today's debating panel for making this debate possible, and of course a massive thank you to all of you in the live audience for tuning in, hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, and all that good stuff. As I say, stay tuned if you are watching on the Nathan Oakley premiering stream. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I'll see you all in the next video.
Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!